I'm gonna start from like the beginning. I was a very feminine child. My favorite color's always been pink and purple. I loved wearing dresses. I loved doing nails. Pretty much just anything feminine. Like, I was a girly girl. I did not have a tomboy phase. But despite that, something always felt off. I can't really explain it, but it's like, felt like it was an act, kind of. Like, not the femininity aspect, but like the being a girl. I didn't ever really feel like that. But obviously, as a young child, I didn't know what being trans was, so my automatic assumption wasn't, oh, well, I must be a boy. It was kind of just like, oh, well, I'm just weird. Because I was not masculine, and because I didn't really have the urge to do anything that boys were doing, that's another reason it never really crossed my mind. It was like around 11, I found out, like, I was having a sexuality crisis kind of thing. I thought I was into girls. That's when I found out what pansexuality was, and I found out about non-binary people and stuff like that. And I thought it was really cool. I wanted to cut my hair short. I would put my hair up in a hood and like whatever, but I didn't identify as non-binary or anything. That's when I was finding out what it was and kind of exploring with labels around my sexuality. Fast forward 2 years, I'm 13 years old. I discover Calvin Guerra. Maybe you know who he is, maybe you don't. If you don't, it's probably better that way. Calvin Guerra is a well-known trans YouTuber. I don't think he makes content anymore, but he's a transmedicalist, and he has very harsh takes on the trans community and what it means to be trans. And his content was kind of like my first impression of trans people, I guess. Not like my first impression of trans people, but like it was the first creator I found that I really got into that talked about, you know, like educational stuff regarding trans people. But you know, now that I'm older, looking back, Calvin Guerra was probably not the best source for information. I mean, definitely on certain things like top surgery or hormones, but when it comes to general like queer knowledge, he's just kind of an asshole. So when I was 13, I got heavy into Calvin Guerra. I got heavy into Blair White, London, Ariel Scarcell, I don't know, like that like one turf YouTuber, and like they all have very like trans medicalist opinions. Like, if you're gonna be a trans man, dress like a man, try your best to fit in with the rest of the cis men, or you're faking it. You're a transgender, you're an SJW, like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of ideology. That's, like, what introduced me to being trans, I guess. When I was big into these YouTubers, that was still before I knew I was trans. Like, I would just binge Calvin Guerra's videos where he would just make fun of feminine presenting trans masked people, and watch him talk about like how, you know, I'm trying to think of some things. Like, there's a lot of things that him and Storm Ryan would say that I still think about. If you lip sync to songs by girls, like, that's weird. Like, how doesn't that make you dysphoric? Or like, you should be binding all the time. Things like girly teeth. Like, you could have girly teeth, you can have girly eyes.
Do you think, like truly in your heart, that embracing your female chest, walking around cleavage out, you know, wearing 100% feminine clothing, 100% feminine makeup, and people are gonna be like, that's a man?
This is why it's harder to gain free surgery from insurance, because they see people like this and think it's a cosmetic procedure.
They would point out these things that I would never really think about, and now I think about them.
Oh my god, that's definitely a trender pose. Like, if you see someone who goes like this, they're definitely a transgender.
More people that there are, it's just stupider we look. It just goes on. Like, it makes us look like we're going to detransition. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to relate
Well, it
us
makes it
to
look like
them.
being.
Because I got so big into these hateful YouTubers before I even accepted that I was trans, it took me a lot longer to accept that I was trans, because I was like, well, I'm feminine, and I'm always gonna be feminine, so I can't be trans. That's basically what happened. Like, then, because at this time I hated non-binary people because I was such a big Calvin Guerra fan. And then I was like, I cut my hair short because I cut bangs, I fucked them up. I ended up getting a short haircut. And then I started like looking at guys, and I was like envious of them. And I was like I want to look like you. I'm not into you, but I want to look like you. That's when I really started realizing when I would do that. And I was like, I think I might be non-binary. And I remember posting on my spam account, like, I think I might be non-binary, but like I've had these I've had such a harsh opinion on non-binary people for so long because I was a Calvin Guerra fan. So I was like, I don't know, like, this is kind of confusing. Like, I don't think non-binary people exist, but like I kind of want to come out as non-binary. So that's when my opinions kind of started shifting, and then I met a friend who I'm no longer friends with, but they were the first trans person that I met. And then I was like, I felt a lot more comfortable. Like, they completely kind of changed around those opinions. I mean, not completely. I still struggle with a lot of internalized transphobia, but I was kind of like, okay, like, I'll try. I'll give it a try. So I started using they them pronouns. Or I don't know, I was gender fluid at some point. I identified as non-binary at some point. And then I think when I was like 14 or 15, I came out as a trans guy because I didn't identify as non-binary or gender fluid for very long, because I found out pretty quickly that I just want to be called a guy, and that's it. When you first are accepting that you're trans, I think it's the hardest because you start with nothing, right? You start with everything you were born with. You got to work with what you have. And like, that was a struggle for me. I was very impatient, especially because I had these like, I still had fucking Calvin Guerra's voice in the back of my head telling me like, people aren't gonna take you serious unless you pass. Like, but even when I would try, like, it felt like the harder I would try and pass, like, the more stupid I felt, because it just wouldn't work. Like, it didn't matter whether I was dressed up full fucking drag, or if I put a whole fucking mask fit on and tried really hard to present that way. Like, I would get misgendered the same amount, and I would just feel like shit. I'd say I have pretty extreme dysphoria. I mean, not as extreme as some people's, but I feel like people don't realize how extreme my dysphoria is because I'm so feminine. And because I present the way I do, and I'm interested in the things that I'm interested in. But, that's not the case. Friendships, and especially relationships and intimacy is, like, confusing and difficult. Like, when I was 15 and other, girls were in these, like, cute high school sweetheart relationships, and I had to explain to the guys that I was interested in that, like, I'm a guy, and if you don't refer to me that way, or you don't, like, see me that way, like, I can't talk to you. And if I do, I'm just gonna end up, crying every time we talk or anytime we do anything. No 15-year-old wants to have to explain that to other 15-year-olds, but same with friends. Like, I don't know, like, when you first come out, you have to be patient with people, because they're still adapting, and it's just really hard. And you definitely find out who's real and who's fake. A lot of people make excuses or pretend that they're supportive until you do something that they don't like, and then all of a sudden they use it against you. Now that I'm an adult and I've been on testosterone for like a year and a half, things are a lot different. Like the way I react to people misgendering me, the confidence I have in myself, I don't know, everything's a lot different now. And I'm really grateful because it was really hard for a really long time. And I still struggle with a lot of things, but it's a lot of different things. Now that I'm on testosterone and I'm starting to pass, my struggle is adapting to the world perceiving me as a man. Whereas before, my struggle was trying to get people to perceive me as a man and not a woman. Because unfortunately, once you transition, the struggle isn't over. You know, you have to adapt to a completely different life. Like the way people treat you, the way people, like the what people expect from you. It's weird. It's different. I wasn't struggling with that before. I was just struggling with being perceived, how I want to be perceived. But now I am, and it's weird. It's odd because I grew up a female. I grew up a girl, and I never had the expectations of a man, or like I didn't have people perceive me that way. But even with that like uncomfortableness, even with that uncomfortable feeling, I feel so much better about myself. I don't know, like in so many ways. Something I struggled with for a really long time was trying to get cis men's approval, trying to be one of them, you know what I mean? Like, and one thing that I'm starting to realize or finally accept is that like you will never be cis. No matter how much you pass, like you can be 6'5", you can have abs of fucking steel, you can have a deep voice and full facial hair. Even if you get full surgery, like you'll never be cis, and that's okay. Like that's not like, it's not the end of the world, and it feels like it because it's like I felt like for so long like I was missing out, like, and I still feel like that, obviously, like I'm missing out on certain things, but I'm also experiencing something so beautiful and unique, and I have all these feelings that other people don't or couldn't understand unless they were also trans. It's not all bad, and you know, the more cis men I meet, the more I realize that the grass isn't greener on the other side. Like, I'm honestly grateful I was raised a female and a girl, because now I'm able to open up and love and see things in a different way than if I was born biologically male. There's no point in trying to prove myself to cis people, or, you know, like push myself so hard, because realistically people are gonna hate us no matter what. It doesn't matter if we push ourselves to fit in or to stay quiet. It doesn't matter. They're gonna hate us equally, and they're gonna want us gone equally. Ultimately, like, if I want to be happy, I have to just accept the way I am and stop trying to push myself to be this like fucking alpha male, because that will make cis people approve of me or understand me better. Cis people don't understand me. That's it. And that's fine. They don't. We have a different experience. We have a different brain. You're never gonna understand me. I'm never gonna understand you. And that's fine. I don't have to pretend like I do. Like, as a trans person, my idea of what a man is and my idea of what gender is and shit like that, it's completely different than a biological man who's never struggled with gender identity or anything like that. Like, we don't have the same experience, and that's fine. I'm a trans man, and whether you think that that's a real man or a woman, or I don't care. I'm feminine because I was raised a girl. I was told from the minute I was born, I had these expectations. I was put into a box. And so as a kid, obviously, I never questioned it. I played along. But that doesn't mean, like, that I'm not trans. Me being trans isn't going to, like, take that part of me away. Like, I wasn't raised on sports and cars and I don't fucking know what guys do. I wasn't raised on that. So, just because I come out as trans one day, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna have a connection to these things that guys grew up with. That's not what makes you a man. At least that's not what I think makes you a man. Like, what is trucks and fucking sports and shit like that? What does that realistically have to do with men? Biologically, it's constructed by society. If I was given toy cars when I was 2 years old and I was told, play with these cars, I would have played with the damn cars because I was a child. You know what? I probably would have grew up and I would have been into cars. Because that's what I grew up being told to like. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't given an option. So for people to be like, oh, well, it just doesn't make sense that you're trans. Well, my phone died. Another thing people will say is like, well, then how did you know you were trans then? And I can think of a lot of things. When I was around like 11 or I don't know, 12, around there, I would fantasize about being in relationships with gay men, and not in like the weird fetishizy, like I'm a straight woman getting with a gay man. Like, I would picture myself as a gay guy with gay guys. And I don't know why I didn't look into that sooner, but when I was around 12 or 13, I had a really hyper feminine phase and I was trying to dress like the other girls my age. So I would wear like push-up bras and I'd pull them really tight so like my boobs would show, and I would dress like in like tight like leggings and crop tops and stuff like that. And I started getting into makeup. So I would try and like feel like feminine, and it just felt like I was faking it. I don't know, like I could wear something that other girls would wear and it wouldn't feel like I was a girl wearing it. It felt like I was a guy playing dress up. Like, something just felt off. I never felt attractive. It just felt really, really awkward when I did it. And, like, I was confused. I was like, because I didn't feel ugly. That's not necessarily, and at the time I was like, maybe that's what it is. Like, maybe I'm just ugly. But that's not what it was. I just felt out of place. Like, this doesn't feel right. Little things like, even somebody mentioning, like, I remember once I got upset. I didn't tell them that I was upset because it was stupid, but I think I said I had to pee or something, and they were like, well, why don't you go squat in a bush? And the fact that they even acknowledged that I would have to squat because I have a vagina, that instantly, like, I was miserable for the rest of the hangout. Because it was like, you perceive, like, you know what's in my pants. There's the obvious one, like, misgendering, like, being called she. I mean, unless you actually experience the discomfort of being misgendered, you wouldn't really know, even if I describe it, but I can feel it in my heart. It's like a heartbreak. Like, I can feel something, like, drop. If somebody were to purposely come up to me and call me my dead name and call me she, I don't care. But when people I care about or I'm close to, like, slip-ups they hurt. It's like you're slipping up, like how you see me. It's like, oh, I thought you saw me as a guy, and then it's like you have a slip up, and now it's like, oh. It just kind of feels like a betrayal in a way. Like, you don't see me the way I want you to see me. And you're just pretending. So that's like kind of how I would describe it. I've been talking for a long time. There's a lot that I could say about this. So if you guys want me to talk about anything else, let me know in the comments, and I'll probably make another video when I think of more to talk about, because honestly I'm kind of lost in the sauce. Like, I don't know where I was going with this.